Well, we're live. Welcome to the Gored Ox Pub. Fortunately, I don't see the star of the show. So, I'll run this for a little while. Hopefully this works. He set it up, so I know he knows we're streaming. Hope nothing's going wrong. You never know. You get to a certain age, and all of a sudden you got to worry about these things. But anyway. Hoping everyone's doing okay tonight. I have no idea what we're doing on the stream tonight. Oh, preliminaries for a Conan piece. See, I too could read the stuff, the tag line, whatever it is. Anyway. I got comments. Comments? Hi, Adam. I have no idea where Rich is. So, I started the stream like a dutiful little co-host. Okay. I'm sure we'll be there too. Anyway, so hope you guys all had a good Labor Day weekend. I was... that's better. Anyway, yeah, so I hope everyone had a good Labor Day weekend. I was so focused on... Quite frankly, I kept thinking about, my mother's birthday's coming up, which is always on Labor Day weekend. Yeah, I did know Labor too. But I was so focused on it being my mom's birthday, I completely spaced the idea that I had Monday off. Just, not until Sunday night. I emailed my wife. Do I work? Literally, I was that just zoned out of what weekend it was. Hey, I see a ridge.
See a what?
A ridge. I agree, Adam. The surprise day off is refreshing.
Surprise day off.
Well, I was just saying, I was so focused that my mom's birthday was coming up that I 100% spaced on Labor Day. I had no idea, none, that yesterday was Labor Day. And so Sunday night, it was pretty close to, our normal meeting time when I realized that we had Monday off.
Okay.
I'm just so Monday was a complete surprise. Adam would like to know what is good in life, Rich?
I'm getting to do Conan. But, because I'm getting to do Conan, I have these standards that I must live up to. That's actually why I was running late. I'm looking at all these references. Trying to decide which would be the better one because I don't want to do what everybody else does.
Uh-oh. Adam said wrong. There's only one answer for this stream, and you failed.
How about I fail with my own stream? Good luck with that.
Adam said the correct answer is to crush your enemies, see them driven before you, and to hear the lamentations of their women.
Right, if we were doing the John Milius version of Conan. That never actually happened in the real Conan.
Have that. Oh,
That would be Eli saying his normal hybrid.
Oh, hi, Eli.
there's a song, new show for that.
He's getting ready to go back to school.
Birthday,
Oh, that's cool.
birthday, off the birthday.
He's got new shoes and new pants.
Phone stay here, Mom. Phone stay here.
Yeah, phone's gonna stay here.
Bring yourself for that? You bring one for that?
Stay here during the day after school.
Go to the underground.
Also not allowed to school.
Oh.
For they can. For they can?
No, baby.
For they?
Saturday and Sunday you can have your phone all day.
Go
The dog has nothing to do with it.
No sauce. Pee-pee.
I will take you all second. Okay, bye-bye.
Oh.
There's going to be a lot of tantrums. There's a lot of tantrums today up there. Alright, I want to sit.
Okay.
Adam says that you are a comic Conan purist. Because I know I am not.
Well, it's not the comic. I'm a Conan purist.
Oh.
That would, that would imply that I stop at just what's in the comics, but what's in the comics is based on Robert E. Howard's actual work.
Friday night?
Uh-oh.
No, just having a discussion that's really an off-screen discussion.
Hey,
So,
well, it's just his birthday. I'll send you it.
so I saw somebody do a hyper-realistic depiction of what they think textbook Conan should look like. Which, when I confronted them with what textbook Conan should look like, they said, well, I don't want to copy anyone else. I'm like, well, what the fuck do you mean textbook then? Because that's, kind of dumb. Yeah. I didn't get into a deep insulting discussion, but I was like, that guy looks like Lorenzo Lamas, and Lorenzo Lamas doesn't look like Conan to me. I'm like, he looks like what's his name? Dark-haired Fabio, and like, he's on the cover of a bodice ripper. And the girl at Conan's feet is a porn star. And she's making a porn star face. And he's like, and this is the quintessential Conan girl. Like, no. Because he was posting it in the Frazetta fan page, and somebody else was like, uh, why does she have pasties on? And he's like, Frazetta invented the pasties on the girls. And I'm like, have you really looked at Frazetta's work? Because he doesn't have pasties on. I think you're confusing him for Boris Vallejo. Because Boris Vallejo did that whole metal-ish metal-ish pasties. He did that on a lot of women. Frazetta would either just draw breasts completely, or draw like almost bathing suit type tops. I haven't really seen him do much for pasties.
I want to know what the armor class of pasties is. Anyway.
Yeah, right, but because it protects the nipples.
It's the most important part. Hey, Adam said, are you going to for OG Conan? I don't know. Wilcox or a Barry? J.M. Wilcox? Barry
No.
Windsor Smith?
Nope. Let's see. I don't know who J.M. Wilcox is.
I don't know. You want me to look it up for you?
Well, I just
Adam is dropping some names.
it also might be in that time period that I thought the work was ugly.
Or perhaps it's J. Period M. Wilcox. Oh. Although there's one that says JM. Maybe it's both.
Yeah, I think that's initial work. No. So that's the artist that did it pretty much originally.
Okay.
And he drew him in chitin. So if you look, he's basically Prince Valiant in Greek armor and Greek skirt. No. That's not how he was actually described in the book. One point of contention is the hair. Like, he's supposed to have a square cut mane. To me, that's what John Buscema drew every single time. And he used he used the movie star. I'm trying to remember where he was from. But his name is Yabis Selectman. Maybe it's Polish?
It says Adam lost the stream. But now he's back.
Seeing if I can find a good picture.
I'm just gonna put this up there. Oh no, not that. This. Ah, lovely. In case anyone else wants to type that in slowly, or so I don't know.
this is who John Buscema used. And that's pretty close to a square cut name. I have another picture of him that's much more fitting of the Conan ideal, but it's so small you really can't see it very well. So, Frank Frazetta used himself, just kind of ad-libbed the hair.
Okay.
John Buscema used that particular actor. He used to use Yul Brynner for a lot of faces that he did, but generally those are bad guys. But he used that guy for Conan, and you can see it like. Hold on a second. Okay. So Eli was pushing the remainders of a 12-pack, 24-pack of water in a cabinet. So it was like squeak, 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 and I was like, yeah, that's not going to happen on screen.
Why not? That would be fantastic.
So,
No, I should fix this.
the picture that I actually used for
Adam said this is going to be epic. You can feel it.
the cover photo, the picture that I used for the cover photo. Let's see if I can find my drawing of it. But actually, that's a painting I started of Conan in oils, but I can't use oils now because you can't breathe them. Let's see. It was so easy to find before, and now it's like, there we go.
No, you can't breathe the oils or the solvents.
Yeah, either one, really.
All right, I got it. I got it.
So that was my original drawing for Conan. I'm really kind of particular on what I want to see for a Conan. So I don't want to draw something I don't want to see for a Conan, right?
Okay. Adam said that's Batty $.
Oh. That ass. But it's bad ass.
I know. And then I was like, oh, let's just really, really up this up.
Did you end up watching Dr. Horrible sing-along blog?
No? Dr. Horrible sing-along vlog.
Yeah, we talked about that, I think, last episode.
Did win.
Yeah, Neil Patrick Harris
Oh, okay. Yeah.
and Nathan Fillion from
No, I haven't seen
Firefly playing the bad guy.
it.
Or
Yeah.
good guy that was a bad guy because he's an asshole.
Right. Now I remember. Yeah, I have no real desire to see that.
Oh, but you would love it because you have this sense of humor, so you would really enjoy it. It is comedy. But the bad guy, the leader of the bad guy club, I guess that you want to call it, he wants to get into, is Bad Horse.
Adam said I had one homework assignment.
Right?
That is not true. I have all homework assignments.
Well, he forgot he had the day off, too, so, you know,
I was working.
we'll give him that.
Oh,
So, Larry Correa just saw Godzilla -1
Yeah.
because people have been telling him to.
Go see it.
Well, people have been telling him to because it was a good movie, and it took him a while. But anyway, my point was that he saw it and he was talking about how amazed he was at how good it was, which is like my exact reaction, right? But Chuck Dixon was in his comments and he's like, anything by that director is good. So I went looking to see what else that director had, right?
yeah.
And he's got, like, I think Shin Godzilla, but he's got Space Battleship Yamamoto. And I was
Okay.
like,
Adam said he saw the new Alien movie and the Borderlands movie. Were either one of those good? Adam said no.
Actually, he said nope. But, yeah.
he said, what?
Oh, now he said the Alien was so-so, but the Borderlands was garbage. I think that's kind of what I've seen from other reviews. Which, I don't know. I mean, I kind of always, like, I have yet to go see an Alien film and just think that was an absolute waste of my time.
Yeah, I felt like that with Prometheus.
Well, I thought that was kind of
I felt like it didn't go far enough, and that it was it held back more than what it offered, I guess. But I was interested in learning more.
You were interested in what?
it was developing more of the lore, and so I was enjoying that aspect of it.
I think I agree with Brad Torgerson when he said we really didn't need to know the history of the derelict. It was more interesting not knowing the history of the derelict because that was that little it's just saying that the aliens were taking over and killing different species. So, and there's kind of things that I don't really think make a whole lot of sense because they went into the derelict. But I don't know how the aliens or why the aliens would evolve. Because if they need other bodies to gestate their young in,
Adam said that most prequels are garbage. It's explaining stuff, and the whole movie is exposition you don't need to know.
right? That's what Brad Torgerson was commenting on, and I really agree with that. But I just didn't need to know it. I mean, maybe some people wanted to know it; they wanted to expand on the lore, but I was fine without it.
Oh, by the way, StreamYard kicked me out twice when I was trying to get in here. So, I
You're
disappeared.
talking shit about them behind their backs.
Probably. They're like, yeah, you're not getting in anymore, you asshole. So,
We know what you're about.
oh, that is not what I want. I'm trying to get some. Oh, yeah. I mean, technically, sorta. The current crop of Planet of the Apes is a series of sort of prequels.
The trilogy was kind of, but honestly, the last Planet of the Apes of that trilogy with Andy Serkis in it
Yeah.
was a remake of Beneath the Planet. No, not Beneath. What the hell was it? Right? I don't remember what the original one was called. So the original sequels, I guess I should take that down now. The original sequels were they got cheaper and cheaper.
Right.
You know, like when I'm talking about the original, I'm talking about like Charlton Heston originals.
Yeah.
Well, I'm just making sure everybody knows what I'm talking about because there was that Tim Burton thing in the middle.
Yeah.
So, they got cheaper and cheaper. The costumes got cheaper and cheaper. Roddy McDowall actually saved his original costume, and that's the only reason that he had a mouth that articulated in that last one. But the last one, I think it was in the 70s, the early 70s. They represented the War of the Apes in a different manner, like the rising of the apes in a different manner. Maybe it was Battle for Planet of the Apes was the title. It's been a long time. So the final James Franco, Jonathan Lithgow trilogy. And I want to call it the Andy Serkis trilogy because he's the guy that was in all of them. So the final episode of that trilogy was the furthest prequel in the early ones. So they do line up, and they just started earlier than that, which I was fine with. I don't know how I felt about the way that it all happened at that last episode because it turned in a lot of different things in it. But I did like him, but then this one, The Rise of the Kingdom of the Apes, or something like that, or Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes, or something. I've been wanting to check out, but I'm kind of afraid to buy it because there's so many crap movies that looked like they were going to be good, and then didn't turn out to be good.
Adam said most writers did the original film or book because that was their best part of their research and exposition and art. To do a prequel is to release that which the writer considered inferior and less interesting parts of the story.
No, the original book was a French book, and it was a comedy.
No, I think he just means in general.
Okay, well, I'm just saying the original book was a comedy, and it was the apes coming back in time, which they did in the movie. But that was the whole extent of it. It was a social comedy where these apes from the future came back to the past or something like that, and they were living in France in all the big major hotels. And I don't know, I didn't read it, but I know about it.
So I Googled like best prequels, and all kinds of stuff's coming up. Whatever. I was just trying to
what?
Best prequels.
Best prequels?
Yeah, prequels. Like what we're talking about. Prequels.
Yeah, but we're talking about specific prequels. Are you talking about the more vague subject?
Yes, because
Okay,
Adam
thank you.
said, "Are there any prequels that are any good?" And I said that I said Kingdom of the Apes or Planet of the Apes, the new ones. But I was Googling to try to get, is there anything I'm just not thinking of? And some of these I just like, that's not bad. Like this one lists Red Dragon, which it's not bad. It's not as good as Silence of the Lambs. It's also, while it is a prequel, it's a self-contained story that doesn't need Silence of the Lambs to exist. And I did not know this. I guess I never paid enough attention. But I did not know that The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly is considered to be a prequel.
Well, for a fistful of dollars?
Yeah. I enjoyed Rogue One, Adam. I saw something that said Rogue One should have been basically the last 20 minutes, but I enjoyed it. I also enjoyed Andor.
I think Rogue One fell short of its promise, but I did like the cast. I did like the movie, but I just didn't like it as what it was supposed to be. If that makes any sense.
Well, I always thought it was kind of funny because, Final Destination 5 as a prequel is actually pretty darn nifty. I mean, I don't really like the movie, but I like the commitment. But anyway. For me, Rogue One, they tried to say it was a heist movie, which I don't really think is.
No, Solo was.
I agree, but even that one wasn't that good.
Well, that's because it was a copy of Firefly's The Train Robbery.
Don't know. Could be. I don't know. I think there's the problem with a lot of, I think, sci-fi heist films
is that the technology kind of has to be good enough that it's all magic anyway, and you don't really understand it. Like it's something I've thought about.
Well, Star Wars kind of fits that category because, like, until they start trying to make it more sci-fi, originally it was space opera, and that was what was great about it. It didn't have the constraints of the boring old sci-fi constrictions.
Yeah,
In my opinion. I want to stress that these days.
Part of it just you run into some serious problems. That technology kind of plays a problem with if you're going to really go for the heist aspect of it, in my opinion. So, like, you have to make some really strange circumstances as to why a lot of this technology, like, why it doesn't work, and or why you can't do this or that, and so it's kind of a pain. So I don't think I've ever seen or read really a really good sci-fi heist. Now I fell in love with a series called The Stainless Steel Rat, but it's not really what that book is, or those books are. So,
what?
It's a thief. He's a thief. It's a far future story, and there's a thief, and his moniker is the Stainless Steel Rat, and it's a great series. I don't know, but the technology aspect of it has to kind of tone down. Adam, I like Solo. A friend of mine says Solo's garbage, and I'm like, the pacing's a little off sometimes, but overall, I don't think it's that bad.
I both hate and love about it. So,
well, like that chase scene at the beginning just was like one of the slowest chase scenes I've ever seen. And I kept thinking, I've seen speeders fly through the forest moon of Endor, and these guys are going like 10 miles an hour. Like, it was pathetic. And yeah, Adam, I would say that Rogue One is a military, like a World War II film set in space. But also, I did like Inception. I thought Inception was wonderful.
yeah, all right. That's all I got for Inception. It was all right.
I enjoyed it. It had neat visuals. It's a heist.
Yeah, neat visuals, but that's that whole spectacle thing. That doesn't make a movie great for me.
I don't think Guardians of the Galaxy 1 is much of a heist film. It's got a MacGuffin in it, and that's about it. They don't break into some place to get the orb, really. I mean, that's like saying Indiana Jones is a heist film because he kind of sort of robs tombs. They're not really the same thing.
What did you just equate to Indiana Jones?
Guardians of the Galaxy 1.
Yeah.
They
I
end
don't,
up
I don't
on...
think it equates to Indiana Jones, but I don't really think it's a heist film per se.
I'm saying it's an adventure film.
That's kind of like
But-
Ant-Man being a heist film instead of Indiana Jones. I don't think there's enough similarity there to compare Indiana Jones, but Ant-Man, that premise is at least that dude's a thief in the beginning, right? So,
Yeah.
and that's still not a heist film. You know, when you ask somebody to go steal some shit for you.
Right. So
But
Adam's
is
asking-
Gone in 60 Seconds a heist film in your opinion?
is what?
Gone in 60 Seconds. Is that a heist film in your opinion? Not a trick question, just a question.
Well, no, it's an interesting question. Because on one hand, the whole movie is about stealing stuff. I would say that it's probably a heist film. Because I can break it down. They have a moment where they gather their group. They explain the plan. Like, there are certain tropes that tend to happen in a heist.
And the emphasis is on stealing something or someone.
And just because they're in different places, I guess that's the twist on the heist that it is. It's that it's not one location, it's in lots of locations.
It's an idea story that fits perfectly with what you're talking about, but an idea story can also be a rescue story, which kind of that is as well. That could also fit Missing in Action, or that could also fit Rambo First Blood Part 2, where they make a plan, they get the tools they need. That's an idea film. Whether it's a heist film or a mission film, or even some of them have been quest. If you need to gather either a team or gather tools, and you display that and make a plan, that's the thing, right? With the idea story is that you make a plan, you show the plan, and then the plan goes awry. That's the mice quotient.
Okay. But
So what I'm saying, I guess, is that you can fit into that story frame and not be a heist film, even though a heist film fits that story frame. What you were describing with Gone in 60 Seconds is they put together a team, and all the stuff that you were describing are the stuff that you would still do if you were, rescuing POWs, or something similar if you were rescuing somebody. Anything that you're required to kind of make a plan for, right? So, I mean,
so
definitely
is everything
that-
a heist film?
No, that's not what I'm saying. But what I'm saying is that in that framework, that I think. Let me rephrase. Let me take a second.
You're not defining it, but you're telling me my
I didn't-
definition is wrong.
No, I'm not telling you your definition is wrong. I'm actually saying that framework, the framework, fits more than just a heist. I'm not saying that it doesn't fit a heist, but I'm saying that I think that there's more to the heist film than just the framework, because the framework also fits other.
Okay, so then
other
what
types
is it?
of stories. I don't know. I'm not the one that's a super big fan of heist films. That's you. But I'm just saying that what you're describing, according to the mice quotient, is anything that's an idea story. Whether you're ripping somebody off, you're rescuing somebody, or you're on a quest where you have to make a plan and plans go awry. That's the framework. It's not necessarily the definition.
Is it set around a theft of some kind? Because that was kind of part of it.
That does change part of it. But what I'm saying is, like, gathering a team, those parts that you were saying with gathering a team, not looking to fight. I'm just saying that some of the stuff that you're describing is more than just for a heist film. That's all.
I never said it was.
Story. No. I was just saying, because I was asking you if Gone in 60 Seconds fit, and what you broke it down to though was what the Mike quotient breaks down to as an idea story. That's all. That's all I was saying. It may have sounded like more, but that's really not. Everything comes to a halt.
Well, I'm just
joining in the conversation, not trying to start a fight.
No, I'm trying to say, okay, so if everything is a heist film, then there is no such thing as a heist film.
I don't know where you're getting the everything is a heist film thing.
Adam said, yep, even all the rom-coms because someone is making a plan to steal someone's heart.
Yeah, probably not. There's other parts of the framework to most of the rom-coms, right?
Well, I mean, again, I think generally speaking, it has to be centered around something, probably in the title of it, a heist. And while, okay, someone's trying to steal someone's heart, that's a metaphor, not an actual theft.
I think, like if you wanted to get technical, there could be a rom-com built around that.
Yeah.
But
Ocean's 11.
I don't think that defines it. Like I was talking about Addicted to Love, where they're planning to fuck up each other's, like this couple meets while planning to fuck up the people that are cheating on them's relationship or the people that dump them's relationship. So I mean, they did have a plan, but the plan went awry with something else. That's one of those occasions where they fail upwards. What David Farland called failing upwards.
And Adam, for an earlier comment about Ocean's 11 in space, what would that look like? I think that's kind of my go-to example of why I think science fiction is a hard place for heist films. Ocean's 11 works so well, partially because it's not particularly high tech. Some of the hacking, where they get access to the servers and all that stuff, is pure Hollywood. But you could make a mock-up. Spoiler alert for anyone who hasn't seen Ocean's 11. Seriously, you owe it to yourself to skip over my spoiler. This is one of the few times I would actually argue you might not want to know this. Adam said this is a heist film because the conversation was stolen. But
I was going to say what it would look like in space is oh crap, I forgot it. Sorry, it's an anime. I'll have to look it up. Go ahead and talk and I'll look it up.
Well, I just think it would be hard, just like I'm sorry, if they can hack into stuff so
I know.
Like they do
Cowboy Bebop. It would look like Cowboy Bebop in space, right?
I don't know. I haven't read it or I haven't seen it.
Cowboy Bebop?
Is it anime?
All right, so it's also, it's anime, but it was a live action.
And there you go.
series on Netflix.
Yeah, I know.
It's basically a space version.
Well, you know, I suppose I could watch it and I could tear it all apart for the people who love it, but and maybe I'd be wrong. You never know. I could watch it and be like, oh, finally, I've seen Ocean's 11 in space that actually works. But some of the problems with a lot of science fiction stuff that I have is that when you start thinking about it just a little bit, some of it begins to unravel almost always along the lines of technology. Like if they can hack into the plans and everything of the Bellagio, then why couldn't they just steal money the old-fashioned way by hacking a bank? It seems like you're taking a lot of risk to physically be there. And the question I always have is, why are you physically there? And a lot of technology stuff really begins to kind of, it creates problems that you either have to ignore or accept and ignore, I guess. And I have a hard time doing it. Because what makes a really good heist film is I guess there are three things. One would be it's believable from start to finish. Two, the way it's pulled off is a surprise. But when you understand the surprise, it makes perfect sense. And if it's just, all I had to do was use my hologram to first, give me a alibi somewhere else. I mean, it's just you start having some serious problems. Like why aren't you just? I just like even Star Wars. Okay, let's go with Rogue One. Now, part of this is because of when the original was made. But like that data storage system is ridiculously stupid. And I like Rogue One. Just kind of like the same thing with AT-ATs or AT-ATs, however you want to call them. Or AT-STs or even worse. It's like, why would you, it's kind of a neat design visually, but other than that, it's not really all that smart. And kind of have to let it go. And I suppose with Star Wars, I give them a pass. But that's because I first saw that when I was a kid. And now I can look at some of the stuff they do with technology, and you're like, I got better stuff on my phone. But, they didn't have cell phones when George Lucas originally made it. So a lot of that, yeah. So a lot of that stuff isn't there, and that's part of the universe, and that's okay. Oh, I'm putting that up on screen. Adam said if they were Scottish, would it be Brogue One? Speaking of, okay, actually, before I say anything,
It would be Maul.
Rich, did you see that there's a crap. I can't even think of the word. What is it called when they collect signatures for stupid things?
Collect signatures?
Yeah, to like influence people or something. They're all dumb.
Petition?
Yeah, there you go.
Petition. Thank you. I can't think of the word. Have you seen the petition to get Acolyte renewed for a second season?
Yeah, I have like 700 people on it.
Oh, it's got like 65,000 now. But Did you sign it?
What the fuck would I sign it for?
I'm just making sure. And Adam, let me know if you signed this.
Now you think about it, I haven't watched a fucking Star Wars show since like Obi-Wan.
Well, I don't want to necessarily
insult anyone while they're here on stream, but
No, you'll wait for later.
yeah. But there's a petition to to decanonize it, and there's another petition to get a second season because nothing sounds like a good idea than spending like another $180 million on something that bad. But whatever. But signing petitions like that. Yeah, Adam, has it worked yet? Signing the petition to get Kathleen Kennedy fired, has that worked? Because they never work. Like I find them kind of ridiculous, and I kind of had a weird correlation, I think. But at the time when I saw an article about this, it said that the petition to get it decanonized, which is not a bad idea. I'm not saying it's a bad idea to decanonize it. In fact, that's one of the most, I would think that was the best idea they had. But the petition for that had like 15,000, and the petition for a second season had 65,000. And the only thing that says to me is that there are fewer people who have a brain on the side that wants the acolyte. Like, you can just see if you're signing those petitions, you must believe in all kinds of fantasy to think the petition's going to matter. Whereas the side that wants to decanonize it, which is not a bad idea, fewer of them. I mean, most of us know these petitions don't matter.
I
Adam
think
said
65,000 is a very small number
Oh, I know.
compared to Star Wars fans.
Yeah. Adam said, I don't take fictional entertainment that serious, and if I'm going to spend what life I have left on this earth on anything, I'm pretty sure there are more important issues. In fact, I would say that people spending their minutes on this subject to actually create a petition and spend their energy on that discourse is probably the real route for our societal ills. Yeah, that's kind of why I think there are more people who wanted a second season, despite how bad it was. There are more of them that believe like that. I don't know. But I really did think about Acolyte because, if nothing else,
They probably went around to college campuses and telling them that they're canceling it because it's woke, and then everybody just signed the petition. They don't even watch that shit.
Yeah.
They're all like,
Here's-
it's woke. Let's piss off people that don't like woke.
Here's the part that I'm kind of upset with. And I don't feel like I should have to say this, but apparently somebody needs to. I don't know. But if you're part of the, quote, woke community, you should demand better product. Like, I don't care. Like, if you're going to have good stories.
About the product. It's about the branding.
I know. It's about the propaganda. And propaganda is so obvious and ridiculous. It's stupid. But to me,
well, like I'm saying, it's the branding. It's not the product. It's the branding. Like, even if it's a shitty pair of Levi's, it's a pair of Levi's.
yeah.
Even if it's a shitty pair of Nikes, it's a pair of Nikes.
Yeah, I don't know. I think that story that I haven't finished, that Jake was kind of, I won't say that he was pressuring me to not finish it, but he was cautioning me, and I couldn't quite articulate least I don't think I articulated very well why I was doing what I was doing. And really it's like, damn it, if you're going to shove this kind of stuff down our throats, okay, could you at least make the story good? And that's usually the problem I really have. Like, I don't care if the Acolyte wants to have or be the most Star Wars ever. I sincerely don't care. They're aliens. Like, if you have no problem with Princess Leia in a slave costume being slobbered over by Jabba the Hutt, which I think has to border right on bestiality. If you have no problem with that, I have a hard time thinking, oh gosh, they're gay. Oh no, like that's not why we go to Star Wars. We go to Star Wars for adventure.
I don't think anybody thinks, oh, Princess Leia should end up with Jabba because that would be a neat porn.
Well, no, but I'm saying that
nobody's all like approving of Princess Leia being in Jabba's clutches. They're just approving of her being scantily clad.
Yeah, but if you make any thoughts about why in the heck would a giant worm thing want a bipedal human form that's clearly smaller than the thing's tongue? So it really makes no sense. And to me, it's if I'm okay with the idea that Jabba the Hutt finds Princess Leia attractive, then I'm okay with two women finding themselves attractive or two guys. Like, whatever, I get it, I guess. I mean, physical attraction doesn't make a lot of sense anyway.
I think it's just stupid, actually. Because unless the plot revolves around something sexual,
right,
then who the fuck cares?
Exactly.
Well,
so give me a good story.
That's what I'm saying, though, is that we don't care about that, but they shove it in our faces primarily. That is the story.
Yeah, it's not a good story.
That was the same problem with the Marvel Comics fucking movement. Is they're like making Lobo's daughter gay and in a relationship. But nobody gives a fuck about what her private relationship is. But you start off with her fighting aliens. There's not a reason for her fighting aliens. She's just stomping on aliens. And the whole comic long is about her feeling guilty about not being able to be at her girlfriend's birthday party. And then at the end, her girlfriend dumps her because she was off saving the city. Like, what? Who the fuck wants to read that trash as the initial comic? The number one issue.
Yeah, that seems pretty lame.
Yeah, that's the thing. They're not, like I was saying, Midnighter and Apollo are gay. They're gay characters. They've been gay characters forever. Nobody's saying cancel Midnighter and Apollo. You know what I mean? But they fight crime. They have a story.
Well, here's the thing.
Here's literally why the Acolyte pisses me off. And it really doesn't have anything to do with being gay, because if anything, the Sith, with their questioning of doctrine and all kinds of stuff, I think that makes perfect sense to have someone. Not that gay people are evil. I'm not saying that. What I am saying, though, is that if you already have a group that's used to the questioning, societal norms, then that kind of makes sense. Like, it would be more free and open there. And I don't think anyone would care. I honestly don't. I keep thinking the Acolyte should have been more like the Femme Nikita meets Star Wars, and it would have been awesome. And if she had been gay, no one would have cared. In fact, I would bet money there would be a sizable portion of that of the viewing demographic who would like that. And I'm not talking about gay people. So it's not because it was gay. It was because the story was a giant turd. And the reason why it's good to decanonize is because, and here's why I really want them to decanonize. It is not because I don't want anything woke being part of canon at all. That's not why. I want it decanonized because that way you know you can experiment with something, and if it doesn't work, it doesn't have to be canon. You set the precedent. You say, all right, if generally speaking, if it's a giant turd ball and everybody hates it, we won't retcon. We'll just decanonize. Oh my God, Galaxy Quest, Adam, is one of the greatest, satire films ever. That's as good as what it was spoofing. I think Galaxy Quest is basically I think it's kind of funny because in a way I think that had to have inspired. Oh crap! What's the one with Seth MacFarlane? Yeah.
I don't even watch that shit.
I just can't think of what it's called, man. I'll watch it, but
Well, it's okay.
I understand.
I don't even watch that shit.
It's at least partially meant to be a spoof of Star Trek, and it ended up being better. I think on a lot of, some of it's just a comedy, but I still think it may be better than. Well, I know Discovery. God, that was a turd.
STD?
Yeah, STD was a turd. And the thing about decanonizing, I really do. I go back to James Bond. I almost always go back to James Bond. The story, yeah, they're somewhat sort of connected. The films, not the books. The books, I think, are a little bit more connected. But the films, originally, up until the last James Bond, Daniel Craig, they were, the movies were generally separate. Very little connection. And so if you absolutely thought Roger Moore was a turd, because most of his movies really, they were too campy for my taste. They don't have to be...
I watched them in the theater.
I've seen them all, and I've seen them all more than once. So I just know that Roger Moore's, for me, they tended to be campier than what I would have liked. Pierce Brosnan, some of his stuff ends up that near the end, started getting a little campy, but whatever. I think it's good to allow. It's good to allow for experimentation, and by not making it also interconnected, you can simply say, all right, this one, we tried this storyline over here, didn't work. And this one over here, but it didn't work. But this one worked, so then we can branch off. I don't like the whole Marvel DC shared universe, have to reboot it after a while because it gets too complicated. That's the thing that I've always kind of admired about Doctor Who, is that they kind of built into the system the fact that the same person isn't going to play this all the time. And I thought that was genius. That is something that
I think anyone that wants to create a character, a series character, should try to fake, especially if it's sci-fi. Although I think you do it in fantasy too, but it's a little bit harder in other genres. But you should think of a reason why the person's appearance changes. Adam, I do not believe that Timothy Dalton was the worst James Bond. I think he had some of the worst James Bond films, but I do not think he was the worst Bond. In fact, I've always because Timothy Dalton, if you kind of if you have Sean Connery on the camp side, like on a spectrum of camp to seriousness, and Roger Moore is on the camp side, then I would probably say Lazenby, although it's kind of hard to tell because he's only in the one. And then actually Sean Connery. And then, well, no.
I've heard argument that George Lazenby was actually the best Bond, and considering Bond's description and his actual performance, yes, It was only in that one movie. That's on his fucking agent, and I think his agent made him make a stupid ass move because I think he would have been an excellent Bond.
Yeah, but I'm just saying on camp, it was a little campier.
Actually, I don't know if I agree with that. Are you talking about in Her Majesty's Secret Service?
Yeah, because he breaks the fourth wall. He
breaks the fourth wall.
Yeah.
I'm gonna have to watch it again because I've never seen him look at the camera and talk to the audience.
Then you didn't see the first 5 minutes of the film.
Are you sure he was supposed to be talking to the audience?
He's literally alone, and he says, "This never happened to the other fella."
Yeah, it was supposed to be talking to himself, though.
Sure. As he looks at the camera.
So
he looked at the camera.
Yeah, okay. Again,
he didn't say, you know.
And again,
I don't know. I'd have to watch it again, but I didn't get that feeling.
Well, it's okay. It may be tongue in cheek, but
I don't think he was the worst Bond, period.
I didn't say I wasn't ranking which ones are best or worst. I simply said when it comes to camp, and it's a little hard with him because he's only got the one. I think that one. There are aspects of it that when he's up in the mountain and stuff, and he has to sleep with these girls, sort of like he's going from room to room. Like it's a little campy, and okay, and then.
I thought it was actually down to earth with most of it, and that was kind of what bored me about it when I watched it. I was a kid when I first watched it. It was like he's using a snub-nosed pistol. He's not using his fucking P38?
I don't remember.
It's the gun that James Bond used right up until I think Timothy Dalton. Maybe he switched right after Timothy Dalton, but George Lazenby didn't use the infamous gun. That he used the snub nose, and that bugged the shit out of me because it made it feel like a 70s cop show. You know what I mean?
Yep.
Felix being black, and they were, running the wet streets, and but when his bride dies and all that, I thought that was a little bit. I just thought it was a little bit more realistic. It wasn't like super watch with laser beam, and there's a saw built into this watch and C4 built into this one, and you know what I mean. It didn't feel like he was ultra gadgety for that movie. So where you're calling it campy, I have opposite memories. The campiness, I guess, didn't stick with me. I'd have to watch it again to get the campiness, but He does actually look much more like Hoagie Carmichael. And, well, that's who Ian Fleming designed him after. He describes him as a more serious-looking Hoagie Carmichael.
Okay.
So, I mean, I thought he had more of the looks, and I thought it was well away from some of the gadgetry. But as a kid, that's what I was watching it for, is the gadgetry. Like when I say I watched, like Octopussy and stuff like that, I watched it in the theater with the idea of these gadgets and crazy stunts and all that stuff because I was a kid and that's what I was wanting to see. As an adult, it doesn't fit necessarily, but each stage of it is a little bit different, right?
My parents took me to see Octopussy at the drive-in theater. I did not see it there, as the first movie was All of Me, and by the time that was over, I was pretty well ready to go to sleep. I did.
The first movie was what?
All of Me,
I don't think I've seen that.
with
God, what time? Terrible time. Steve Martin. And who is the other? Who's the lady?
Steve Martin, that's irony too, because Steve Martin has movies that are funny and movies that are dumb as hell.
Lily Tomlin, that's her name. And in it, I don't know if you've ever seen it.
I don't think
You
so.
said you haven't, but I don't know if you know what it's about. So half of Steve Martin
I have
gets
seen a lot of
possessed.
movies and I've forgotten. But I don't think so.
Well, half of Steve Martin gets possessed by Lily Tomlin's character, and so like they have to learn how to walk together and all this stuff, and it's a fun comedy, and I was just young enough where watching the comedy put me to sleep, or it was kept me up late enough it put me to sleep. Plus, it was at a drive-in, so you had to, wait for it to get dark and whatnot. And yeah, so it's didn't see it. Adam, I don't think The Undiscovered Country is the worst Star Trek film. and honestly, when it comes to Star Trek films, they haven't made one yet where I thoroughly was just like, oh, that was garbage.
It's funny, I'm the
I've seen
opposite. I haven't seen a Star Trek movie and was like, ooh, that's awesome.
I don't know if I would say that about all of them.
I wouldn't say that about any of them.
Well, that's okay, but that's a pretty big to go from. I don't think there's any that are complete garbage to they're all awesome. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying I
said I don't think any of them are awesome. I'm like,
right.
I have never seen one that I was like, oh, that's awesome. You were like, I haven't seen one that's completely garbage. And I'm saying I haven't seen one that I thought was awesome.
Well, they were enjoyable for me.
It's two different sides of the coin there.
The first one, when I finally saw it, was a little slow. Like, so much of that first film is just, ooh, look at our ship. Ooh, look, it's so pretty. And the pacing is...
The first feature film?
Yeah. But it ultimately was just... I don't know if they were trying to go for a Space Odyssey type feel for it or what, but didn't really... Pacing was off. Then the second one was pretty good. Third one didn't make a whole bunch of sense, but I enjoyed it. Yeah, even the newer ones. The last new one was kind of. I mean, again, I enjoy them, I guess. I can't tell you much about the last couple. I know a certain part, like the first one, I really enjoyed some of the build-up of Kirk, and there were also some cinematography things that I really enjoyed that we haven't really seen in a Star Wars film. But like the last one, just I don't know, it's not all that memorable. Because they made 3 newer ones, right? 3 with Chris Pine, or did they only make 2? And the whole thing with Tribbles and Khan, just it wasn't the best. Wasn't terrible.
That's the
And to my
closest
knowledge,
movie that I thought was good. The Wrath of Khan is probably the best in my opinion.
well, that's the second one though.
Right.
When they brought Khan back with Benedict Cumberbatch, it just again wasn't terrible, but it wasn't as good. And really, what I think is kind of funny is they talk about the eugenics war, I think it is, in Star Trek, and that's where Khan is kind of from. And that's what I really want to see. Thank you, Adam. But just this idea that you get some genetically engineered super people and, you know, they try to take over, that's just awesome. Like, that's a great concept. They should do that. And that would be a prequel I would, if they did it right, I would enjoy. Of course, that normally tends to be about everything. That, you know, it has to be done right.
Oh, I know they were coming out with a graphic novel for the Prelude to Dune prequels. Speaking of prequels I didn't necessarily enjoy, some of the Dune prequels were good, and some of them I was just like, yeah, I don't care. Like the beginning of the Bene Gesserit, that was kind of neat. But when they went so far back as you got like the original House Harkonnen and Atreides, and you find out why they're pissy with each other, sort of. It just, you know, like,
the guy
You mean
from House of Trees was basically a pet of one of the robots. It's just like, okay.
what?
This is-
You're talking about the Butlerian Jihad books? Where it was Bora?
Yeah.
Or
just-
Harkonnens and Trades.
Some of them I could get into, and some of them I couldn't. Yeah. That was going back so far that it felt like a different world. And so you have a different world, different authors. I don't know, I didn't like it.
Well, I think that they were hesitant to not go far back because they knew that there was an end. They just hadn't found the plans for it yet. So this was what they did in the interim, is to fill in the gaps. And it's the same thing. I guess what you're saying really is the same thing as what I was saying about Prometheus, is that you didn't need that. That was information you didn't care about at all, right?
I'm sorry, I was reading Adam's comment. What did you say? My bad. Because Adam's never read the books. What?
I said, I guess nothing important.
Well,
I was saying that earlier when I said it was the same thing as how I felt about Prometheus,
oh,
where you didn't need the information that they gave you in the battle of the Butlerian Jihad and the battle for Corinth and all that stuff.
yeah.
So I was just saying it's the same thing. We're just two different ends of it. I feel it about aliens, and you're saying you feel it about Dune.
Well, again, there were parts of it. Like, there was one of the books about the Bene Gesserit. And I thought, oh, that's pretty cool. And I don't know, like, it just kind of depends on execution on one hand. Everything comes down to that, I suppose. But when you're doing prequels, I think we already had enough information on, like you said, but we didn't have a lot of information about the Bene Gesserit. And so I enjoyed that one more.
Well, that's because that's what you wanted more information on.
Yeah, it could be.
I think that's like the George Martin and Robert Jordan syndrome, where they have so many characters and everybody has their characters they like, and they're not necessarily the ones that maybe George Martin liked.
Right.
Because he famously liked Tyrion the best, but other people liked Jon Snow the best. Other people liked Arya the best. You know, I suppose there's a contingent that liked Sansa. I wasn't among them, but so like that's the danger of writing too many characters, right? Is that different people are going to like different characters because they're going to relate to them better, and then they want to read about those characters. And that was one of the problems with Martin and Jordan, is that they had so many characters that if you liked the character, you'd have to wait 90 pages to read more about that character. Or in some cases, like Martin's last one, it would be like another novel. Not a sponsor, right? Not a sponsor, but they could be.
Yeah. Of course, you should probably hold it up better. I did a terrible job.
Well, if I hold it up so that you could read the label,
You'll
I would
spill.
pour it on my picture. That's about the best I got.
Is that good? I mean, apparently you're drinking it.
Minute Maid Zero Sugar Lemonade? Yeah,
Yeah.
I kind of like it. I kind of like it, but lemonade, for me, I can only do so much lemonade.
Yeah.
It is not it's not what I'd call my favorite drink. Then again, what used to be my favorite drink's not even my favorite drink anymore. I don't drink, a lot of sodas at all anymore.
Oh, yeah.
I like to drink ices because they're sugar free, and that
Those are good.
ginger ale with the the hell was it? Berries or something like that?
Oh, yeah. I had it on the other night. Yeah. I know what you're talking about. It's not.
It's the Canada Dry fruit splash or something like that.
Very similar.
Those I like, but it's again there's a limitation.
Adam said, I need those sugar-free flavor packets in my water. They are cheap. You get a 10-pack from Walgreens for $1 or $2.
Yeah, there's a few of them that I've had, but I don't know. I'm not really as fond of them. I generally have an iced coffee a day. I drink a lot of water when I can. Sometimes I'll drink these lemonades. Sometimes I'll drink the ices. Depends on what we have. They're usually cheap sugar-free drinks or whatever. But
I used to use those flavor packets. I would get chia seeds and coconut milk, and I'd put in one of those flavor packets, and you let it sit in the fridge. Like, you stir it up really good, you put it in the fridge, and it becomes like ice cream, and it's pretty low carb. It depends on the coconut milk you get. And I'm talking like the unsweetened, comes in a can, Thai Kitchen, a taste of Thai, that kind of thing. Coconut milk, not like a... Oh, I'm fading? Sorry. I'm becoming less real. But yeah, coconut milk, chia seeds, and a flavor packet, and you can have some pretty strong flavored, creamy, cold, thick ice cream like substance. The only weird part is that you got chia seeds, so like my wife hates it because of the chia seeds. Not that you can taste them, but I mean, they're seeds. So they're kind of like having a bunch of sprinkles in your ice cream. So, just saying, you can try it. It's delightful. one of my former colleagues had posted. It's a picture of two grapes, and then and in front of each bundle of grapes, there's a box of Skittles Jello or a box of Starburst Jello. And she said, everyone needs to go out and do this. And I'm like, I have no idea what you're talking about. So apparently, she's been taking grapes and rolling them in the gelatin powder and eating them that way. So I wanted to know if Kool-Aid mix would work just as well, like not the packet, but like the pre-sweetened kind. So I wanted to know if the gelatin was like some kind of textural thing. Adam, the chia seed and coconut milk thing is the chia seeds. Like, for some reason, I don't remember why, but I promise you, 100%, you can find videos on this. Yeah, it just, you put the chia seeds in with the coconut milk, stir it, and chill it in the refrigerator. You don't even have to put it in the freezer. But it comes out, and it'll be incredibly cold, and by itself, it's pretty bland. You need to season it or sweeten it with something. So I've used like those coffee syrups. I've used those before, like the sugarless ones. It's made like vanilla or something. But yeah, I found those flavor packets to be, especially like peach or something. It's good. Maybe I'll make some before the next stream. I'll sit there. I have to get some more chia seeds, I think, but I'll show it off. But it really is like super creamy ice cream. And now that I'm not worried about the carbohydrates, I might just use, means I could put some like chocolate syrup in it. Some good old Hershey's chocolate syrup. Oh my God, I bet that'd be great. Because I've never really found a low carb chocolate that either A, didn't have me reading copious amounts on the toilet, or tasted any good. To see Adam, if you're wanting to try this, let me see if I can find a YouTube video that you can follow, because 100% I know I did not invent this. All right, for the record, this is not Rich. I don't really know if that's the best way of putting it out there, but that'll probably take. I mean, yeah, chia seed pudding. I just went. I mean, that's all I looked up, and that's one of the first ones. Looked right in the picture, so 100%. I would recommend. God. Yeah. Not worrying about the carbs. I could make that stuff actually super awesome. Just hadn't really thought about it. You're welcome. I think I saw something. See ya, Adam. He's going to head out. I think I saw something on YouTube that said that Orson Scott Card attended Dragon Con. I started to watch it, and then my son came downstairs, and he doesn't really like any of that, like, political stuff. And they were talking about how Orson Scott Card had gotten canceled. But then also they mentioned that Orson Scott Card is a conservative, and I thought, okay, if you want to cast a wide net.
He's a leftist. He says he's a leftist. He's Democrat.
I know, that's the part. I'm just like, you just didn't toe the party line on one of the major issues.
Just one.
Well, that's one of those things. Like I saw, some people are upset with Trump because Trump said at some point in time he would vote no on something in Florida banning abortion, and people are all upset about it. And I just, on one hand, yeah, I would like to see abortion gone. Murdering innocent people. It comes down to killing a human being for convenience or personal gain is evil. So if it's one of those things, oh my gosh, I can't get the job I want. Well, is that job worth a human life? Like that's the part I get a little, I don't know, as a parent, no job is as important as my children. So I guess I have trouble reconciling that. But I also recognize it's not a cut and dried issue. And if you want to get super, like, it's kind of like when the left says, you know, the right will complain about something, and the left will say it doesn't exist. So they just gaslight everybody. And I think that the right kind of does it too when it comes to abortion. And, you know, again, if I could wave my magic wand and abortion was gone, I'd do it. If I you know, I would prefer that everyone be taken care of, but I think we have the food for it. You know, we can take care of everyone. But people have to also do their part, and that's the problem.
I guess I don't know how do you see the right gaslighting anybody over abortion. They're not saying nothing is true.
Because when they say things like you're trying to take away reproductive, so the left will say something along the lines of, you're willing to let women die to ban abortion. And then the right says, no, okay, that's not true. And I believe that it's not true. But
yes, because there's 3 exceptions.
I know. But when some of these laws go into effect, or the way some of them are worded, you're inching closer and closer to making something like that possible. And I don't want to get there. And I also think incremental change on an issue that polarizing is probably better than trying to force it down anyone's throat. Which is why I like the idea of saying, no, it goes back to the states. Because you have more control, your vote's worth more on the state level.
Right.
It was the right call.
I don't see how any of that's gaslighting.
Well, I'm saying
maybe you're looking at gaslighting as a different definition than I'm accustomed to. I'm not saying that they're not perpetuating a faulty argument or a little bit of a faulty argument or whatever. I'm just saying I don't see how it's gaslighting. It's the word gaslighting that I'm troubled by.
Well, okay, so it's like, oh God, I saw a video on this, which is a really good example. Now it was from the other direction, where the right was saying, you guys believe in X, and then they say nobody really thinks that, which is not true because people do believe it, and I can't remember what it was about. But this idea of making women second-class citizens and things, I don't think Republicans want to do, and I don't think they want to support any laws that suggest that. It just doesn't make sense. But I also don't want to get to, well, you know how Democrats will say things like, we hate all immigrants because we want a border wall. They'll say, oh, Republicans just, they're xenophobes. They hate, they hate immigration and all this stuff. And it's like, no, that's not really what it is. So I guess in a way it's straw man arguments. But sometimes when you start accusing the left of things, like, oh, you guys really believe this, they'll say, no, we don't. Same way Republicans will say it about issues. Except for when you start, here's a great example. When we started saying that boys could compete against girls in girls' competitions, as long as the boys say that they're girls, this whole trans right thing, I said at the beginning, this is going to kill women's sports. It's it's a whole litany. It's just so anti-woman. It's ridiculous. And people said, no, that's not true. That'll never happen. You're not going to see that happening. And then, lo and behold, It's happening more and more. And now they just move the goalpost and they pretend like they never said this was going to happen. They just, instead, now it's, well, we can't define a woman because there are these super rare outliers. So there's no consensus really over what a woman is. And I'm like,
Right,
yeah,
because
sure.
A woman is not a sex, it's a gender, which is not the same as a sex.
Right. And
Which
it's
is
just
stupid.
like, great, but sports are based on the
You can
sex.
define woman's sex,
Yeah.
which is what the question is when you deflect it or whatever it is. You're deflecting the real question.
But they pretend like they never had the position they had 5 minutes ago, and it's kind of ridiculous. And so I worry about that with the abortion argument. So
Yeah, but I haven't seen that in the abortion argument. I haven't seen something that they're saying that's not true. That nobody's ever said it, but it's true.
well, I think normally when you find out the real things about the laws, that they are the laws are rarely offensive, really. And I always think it's funny because most current abortion laws, for a lot of people, really wouldn't be that offensive, except for then you had the left that had to go ahead and say, shout your abortion and all this stuff and promote abortion. So it went from the Democrat talking point of, it should be safe, legal, and rare to, that sounds like a good Friday night. Like, it's just, it's weird.
Well, see, the thing is that if it's for a health reason, nobody's really gonna argue it.
I agree.
That is a straw man argument, but I don't see anybody on the right doing that. I see that's the left.
It starts off with when the woman's life is in danger or health is in danger, and then they just they extrapolate from that. They say, oh, well, her life is going to be worse off if, she has to pay for childcare, or she can't handle the stress. Her anxiety is too much. And I'm not talking about rape or incest, which really muddles the water. Because, again, when it comes to rape or incest, I keep going back to convenient. If you're killing a human being for convenience or personal gain, it's immoral. But at the same time, it's like, really, do you want to force someone to have to carry a baby to term that they never consented to? Oh, and it becomes a much more complicated issue at that point. So I think that some of these laws can be simplistic on the Republican side, which then fuels this fire of, oh, you're trying to make women, slaves again. And
Again?
Yeah, well, they always act like before women had their, well, no, they tend to act like before 5 minutes ago, women were basically second-class citizens who were property of their husbands and all this other BS that generally not accurate. But that's how they act.
Well, it's just like the women's suffrage movement. It's a myth to think that most women wanted that. That was a series of elitists that wanted it, just like there was a series of elitists that opposed it. So
I saw a girl like younger than me on probably Facebook, like a reel or a YouTube short or something. And she was arguing that women should not have the right to vote.
Yep.
And I thought, well, that's a take. What's up with that?
Do you know
Yeah.
what's up with it?
Well, again, her argument is that since women don't participate in selective service and therefore can't be drafted, they don't have the same responsibilities that men do. If you aren't going to be called upon to go fight in a war, you shouldn't be able to vote for a war. That's her argument.
I've definitely heard that argument, but before, that's what I was saying, like there was a movement against women's suffrage at the time by a bunch of women, because before women's suffrage was passed, every debt incurred by a wife fell on the man.
Right.
The wife didn't have any financial commitments. So there was a definite advantage to not necessarily not having the right to vote, but not owning property or not whatever. It was saying that
they could not.
When they got
debt.
the responsibility, or when they got the right, they had the responsibility that they didn't have before. So,
well, one of the things that
I'm
always
definitely not saying that women shouldn't have any rights. I'm just saying that that was one of the major arguments for it, is that they, with no rights to vote, they also didn't have the responsibilities or financial responsibilities. That was all stuff with the men. Anyway, that was what
I've heard that argument before too, and I agree. I think my wife should have the right to vote, just like me. And I don't know. I find I get the idea that, hey, if you can't be called on to do it, you shouldn't be able to vote for it. But there are things that men vote for that, and again, kind of going back to that abortion thing. I don't have
that's a double-edged sword, because that man has part of their DNA in that. So the body that the woman's talking about, choice.
Well, I agree.
The body is not just theirs. Some of it's the men's. So they should have some kind of right in what they expect as far as their offspring goes.
It gets a lot more muddled when you start saying that if you don't, if you can't participate, you don't have a say, because again, women helping to vote for war will help. Hey, they need to protect. They need the country protected. They have interests. They have all these things, so they have an interest in war, just like men have an interest in children. But the people who pay
women won't go to war, as that would be a very, very last resort. Like, have you ever watched the Whatever podcast?
Nope.
So, it's a couple of guys that run the podcast. I believe it's a couple of guys. I know there's one guy, and then there's another guy that frequents it. But what they're doing is they're addressing a lot of these issues, and sometimes a lot of the times they're addressing them with, like, trying to remember, but the girls that have OnlyFans and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But they're addressing it from a semi-religious standpoint.
Okay.
Because one of the debaters is a lot of his base is on religion, but it's also logic. So he argues a lot of this by logic, like often you'll hear an argument of they don't when these women don't think that they need men to live or whatever, and they'll be all like, so you don't think you need men? He's like, well, 90% of the infrastructure jobs, actually it's 98% of the infrastructure jobs are held by men, and some of them, their women are very unlikely to be physically capable of doing these jobs. So if all men were to disappear tomorrow, civilization would fall, because your communications, your electricity, your infrastructure incomplete would just go down, because there's not enough of a percentage of women to run the infrastructure for the country, or a city, let alone the country. So, but it's an interesting show with interesting arguments. I'm not saying that I espouse any one particular argument, but it's interesting to see what the women will argue, and these are like they pretty much debate feminists and OnlyFans women, where they feel empowered and they feel like men should pretty much serve them, or they're there to pay them, and that's it. So they debate them with facts and logic and ask them logical questions, which one thing that I found amusing is that these women that are arguing for what they know about logic or whatever, they'll ask them something like, let me ask you a question, does 2 + 2 = 4? And they will stutter on it. They're like, well, that depends. Well, how does it depend? Well, it depends on if there's 2 pencils, and pencils have thousands of atoms. Like, so are there 2 pencils or not? You know, it's like, yep. They're like, does 2 + 2 ever not equal 4? And then again, it's the whole, it's possible that, well, no, because they didn't say 2 pencils, it said 2. So does 2 atoms equal, 2 + 2 atoms + 2 atoms equal 4? It's just excuse not to just agree and say, yes, that's true. And the whole purpose of that discussion is to show that these are people that are claiming that their cognitive processes are above the standard guy's processes. And some of them, it's really weird, because some of the conversations I found are like a woman that's a former OnlyPage fan, or OnlyPage runner, whatever you want to call it, is now a preacher or pastor or something like that. And the guy that usually argues the religious aspect doesn't accept the fact that she's a preacher, because the Bible tells women that they can. So it's really interesting how they divided up what their arguments are. The arguments that seem to hold water and the arguments that don't. It's just, of course, I can't watch too much of it, because that's all it is argument, right?
Right.
but it's the same thing. I don't think there's gaslighting in it, but they'll claim. I've seen a woman that's supposed to be a sociologist or something. She's saying that because this guy asked her questions, logical questions, he's threatening her and he's doing violence to her when obviously he's not. He's just talking. And then she gets up and puts her bare ass in his face. And he's like, now that's actually assault. But it's okay, because if she feels threatened, she has every right to attack. And this is a sociologist, right?
Right.
Like I started watching them on shorts on Facebook, but then I've gone over and seen a few. They've got a Twitch channel, so I've seen a few of them on YouTube. And I've never watched some of the whole ones, because they're like, they'll start out in daylight and they end up at nighttime and they're all tired and I'm like, wow. Like, you actually gonna argue for that long over some of this shit? Like, that's crazy.
Sounds like a great way to rage. I don't want to.
Well, I don't know. Like, watching it really kind of reinforces my thinking that nobody's really looking for an answer. They're not looking to find a way to live in peace. They're looking for a way to either prove the other person wrong or shut them down. And honestly, I see so much arguing and fighting all the time. I don't want to see it, online all the time as well. I watch these for a little bit and then shut them the hell off, because they're just like, why would you want to make yourself that miserable,
Yeah. Well, I mean, I know that some of that drama stuff affects your brain chemistry, and it can be like a hit of dopamine. So, like, some people feed on that, and I get it. Like, I can feed on that stuff all day long, except for that I just end up raging the entire day, and I just hate everything. And but there's an energy there. So
I don't know if I could do that. Like, I really genuinely try to look for positives most of the time lately. I mean, obviously I fail, but I look for them.
Right.
Which, is I'm literally trying to find the positives, literally trying to find good stuff to say. That's why I hate when somebody asks me on my opinion on a show or like The Hero's Journey, where you're actually looking for me to have a reaction or whatever, but like, I don't want to have a negative reaction all the time. I love to have things I can recommend that I enjoy,
Yeah. I'm just saying, that's why, like, on some of those things, I know I could feed on it. I also know how that's going to make me feel. And, yeah, I don't need to do that.
It's hard sometimes, really.
I agree.
I'm actively looking for positives and looking for positive things to say and positive things, try to be a positive influence on those around me or those that are looking to, say, learn something about art or whatever. That's what I'm trying to do. Sometimes it just doesn't come out that way, but man, to live life like, trying to make other people miserable all the time, why would anybody want to do that, really? Dopamine, maybe, but I don't.
I'm just saying, there's a.
I guess I don't experience it that way, so.
Well, it's not. I'm saying it's like it. It kicks up your fight-flight response, so it might be more adrenaline. But again, it's a physical response, and I can understand why people feed on it, because there's some energy there. But it's an angry energy, and I don't like it.
So yeah. Anyway.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't think it would be. It wouldn't be something high on my list of something I want to do, I guess.
I don't understand what Facebook is thinking when it gives me this. Here, I'll read it for you. This variegated philodendron Brazil flogger was quite a challenge, but it turned out so pretty. Like, I'm not going to say anything about the craftsmanship. It looks way better than I could make if I was so inclined. But it really makes me wonder why. Like, just floggers don't seem to be the most useful thing, and making one out of leaves, just okay. I don't get it. Maybe I don't need to get it. But why is Facebook showing it to me?
Floggers?
Yeah,
Like to flog yourself with or something?
I guess. Hashtag art, hashtag unique, hashtag BDSM community, hashtag leatherwork, hashtag handmade, hashtag lathe, hashtag plants, hashtag flogger, hashtag philo, hashtag philodendron, hashtag gardening, hashtag Team Sticks Labs, hashtag DIY, hashtag custom, hashtag woodworking, hashtag kink community, hashtag flogger. Because apparently hashtag flogger was, you needed two.
You've been hanging some upside down pineapples in your place.
I guess. I don't even understand what that's about. I'm an old man.
That's a symbol for swingers.
Oh. Okay, I have not done
I was
that.
being facetious because they said kink.
Oh my god. Is that why they had the pineapple in Psych? They had a whole thing. Find the pineapple.
Well, I don't know if that's why they had the pineapple on site, because I don't know when that started, but I do know that hanging a pineapple upside down is supposed to be code for we swing or whatever, or I want to swing, whatever the fuck it is. I know it has something to do with swingers, and I'm not a swinger, so.
I saw this thing where
Stephen King is trying to say?
Florida is banning his books.
Yeah. Yeah, 23 of his books.
And here's the thing I have a serious problem with that. Is because he's written an essay where he talks about, hey, when they take a book out of the school library, go down to the public one and get it out. Or go to your bookstore, whatever. So he knows that taking a book out of your school library is not the same as being banned, and yet...
Right. And he's a writer, so he knows the difference between what banned means and removed from the school.
Or restricted, or whatever. Like, you could say it was restricted. Okay. Lots of things are restricted by age.
Well, in Florida, they don't allow books that have explicit sexual situations to be in elementary school libraries.
Right.
They're not saying you can't sell them in bookstores. They're saying they're not going to keep them in libraries because the parents decided that.
Right.
Stephen King's writing in Tommyknockers about this kid's dad bending him over and larding up his butthole so that he can do something abusive, sexually abusive to his kid, and describing it doesn't need to be in the face of an elementary school kid. Or the orgy that they have, the teenage orgy that they have in it with Bev, or Bev's father beating her and, molesting her.
Right.
That's stuff that's way more of an adult situation, something that adults more capable to deal with or understand. What gets me about it is he withdrew Rage, The Long Walk, and a couple of other ones because of school shootings, right? But yet he's good with child molesting and all this other shit that's in his books being in the schools. The specific list of books that were supposedly taken out, which isn't 20, whatever, it's 13 or something like that. They all have situations like that in them. Yep. They're not talking about, shit, the Green Mile that has a rapist that rapes 2 9-year-old twins, makes them watch each other getting raped, and tells the one that's being raped that if she makes a noise, he's going to hurt her sister.
All right.
That's something that a kid should be reading?
No.
Or what about the scene in Shawshank Redemption with Boggs?
Yep.
It's ridiculous for him to get all upset about them removing that from schools when kids aren't equipped to deal with that shit yet, and they shouldn't be equipped to deal with that shit in elementary school. Not even really in middle school, they shouldn't have to deal with that shit. Kids should be able to be a kid as long as they can be a kid.
I don't know when I started reading Stephen King books. So I don't really worry. I mean, again, I'm compared to some of the stuff I've seen. Yeah, there are some parts of some of his books where it's just like, ooh, I wouldn't give that to a kid, but whatever. But I'm just saying,
you're an adult, so like if you're reading them, you can.
Well, I was an adult when I read a lot of them, but
were you in elementary school?
Probably not.
And that's the point. That's
I agree.
The point.
And I agree that it's not there's a some of the stuff that I've seen some of the especially the illustrated books that are flat. I'm like, if that was a straight couple, you'd call it porn, and it's a gay couple, and for some reason you're saying that's no longer porn.
Yeah, it's acceptable in school because it's either gay or trans or
yeah, and it's like that,
or whatever.
none of that's appropriate in schools.
I agree completely. That's something shouldn't be in schools. Something that kids or should come to on their own anyway, right?
I suppose, but I just
well, I mean, if
Stephen King knows better, he just knows better. He knows better. He knows what he's saying. He knows he's lying.
right,
And I guess that's the part. Like, you can have an opinion, that's fine, whatever, but don't lie to me. Don't act like you've been banned when you know damn well you haven't.
well, he has to play the victim because because in reality, how else can Stephen King possibly be a victim?
Yeah, I don't know.
It would have to be them picking on his books because he's pretty wealthy.
I agree.
So he's really not going to be put out too harshly by any of that stuff. And the books that are not in school, it's not like he didn't already make his money off of them.
Right.
I think the bigger question is, why does he want kids to read that shit? Why is it important for kids to read about larding up your kid's ass? Or, raping your daughter? That why is that important? That's my bigger issue with that is, yeah, it's wrong to say that you can't read that book. But that's not what they're saying. They're saying, I'm not going to keep it in the library. I'm not going to expose kids to it. If they choose to expose themselves to it at some other period in time, they have to deal with their parents about that. But nobody's stopping that book from being sold. That's what a ban is, right?
Well,
just another reason to be up in arms over nothing.
Yeah.
I think Stephen King's losing relevancy, honestly. And this is a kind of desperate grope for being relative again. Which is sad because he was relative in his time because he wrote things that the public didn't have. It's supply and demand. And now there's not as much demand for that crap. So
well, I think he also
got to make up some reason to be in the spotlight.
His characters tended to have a certain middle class, working class appeal, and with like I was reading Fairy Tale, and protagonist is a high school kid, and it's just so like when he decides to throw in this political crap, it seems so forced. And when I read, oh god, it was a crime thriller book, and I can't remember what it was called, but it wasn't a
Joyland.
Oh, I don't remember. No, it wasn't that. Old people. I had old people as serial killers. I can't remember what it's called. But that's how wonderful it was. I can't even remember the title. I gotta look it up. But Holly, that's the name of it. Yeah.
Well,
and it wasn't a terrible book, and it's just that, God, the COVID crap that he forced in there, and it's just, I guess it's the same kind of crap as when Rage Against the Machine is telling you to get vaccinated and obey, It's just not really the same thing as it used to be. And
Oh, you mean they're not rebels when they're preaching to follow the
yeah,
government code?
and there was a certain amount of, I think, it's not outright rebellion, but it's a suspicion of authoritarianism that now he seems to subscribe more and more to. So, whatever. I will say that the man has brought me hours of entertainment. So I don't want to. I'm not going to act like I hate his books, because I don't. And
Yeah, well, I used to respect his books a lot more when I was not smart enough to know better. Now I don't really have much respect for him because a lot of the stuff that he's written. So let me clarify that before I go on. I don't have respect for his plot and his agenda-driven nonsense.
yeah,
I do have respect for the way he hones a character because that is his strength.
yep.
So I'm not trying to say that he doesn't have a strength because that would be foolish. And I think that
When he's firing on all cylinders, it's great. There's more than just character. Although character, I think, would definitely be his strongest suit. But like, I was thinking about Tommy Knockers the other day, and like
that's
a lot of
fucking weak book.
well,
His whole premise is.
well, that might be why the ending is absolutely garbage. But
Well, most all of his endings are absolute garbage.
yeah, most of them. Some of them are amazing. But yeah, you're right. But
I don't think I've read one that I would consider amazing ever.
oh well, I like the end of the Dark Tower.
Well, I didn't make it through the Dark Tower, so that would
Oh,
be a hard.
well, there you go. There's one.
Well, in your opinion, I have to make it through to the end before I can agree.
Oh yeah, trust me, it may piss you off. There have
What's
been
that?
other ones, and the ending may piss you off. Um,
It won't because I'm not going to read it.
well, it okay, massive spoiler alerts. I'm telling everybody now. Although in reality, it shouldn't be that big of a spoiler, but it is. In the last book, the whole series is he wants to get to the Dark Tower, and he does. And Stephen King breaks the fourth wall and says, "Just stop. Just don't read anymore. Like, just he's reached the tower. Good for him. Let it be. Close the book. Walk away. If you read any further, you're just going to be pissed off. Don't do it. Just stop now." Which, if you've read a series of books, like, that's going to stop you. But whatever. And so you keep reading, and you find out what happens to Roland Deschain as he goes up the tower. And basically what it is he has to start all over again. But this time it's slightly different. And the idea is that reality, and they've been saying this since the very first book. They say Ka is a wheel. And so yeah, he's kind of stuck in this wheel. And I thought it was great. And normally I would be pissed as hell with anything like that. Well, again, it's one of those things where if that had not been baked into the pudding at the very beginning, Ka is a wheel. And at the center of Ka, like a giant spoke, is the tower. And this whole idea of it being a wheel, that is a major concept of the book. I would think it was kind of a crappy ending, but it's so well foreshadowed that I respect it, and I like the fact that there's a slight change when he starts over, while being a little bit meta, but again, that was built into the series too. It opens the doorway for, like, when the movie uses Idris Elba for Roland Deschain, the last in the line of Eld. It kind of makes sense. It starts to actually, like, it, depending on where you are on the rotation, kind of depends on what version you're going to get. And I really liked. I thought some serious thought went into that. And I'm not saying that series is perfect. And there are even some parts that I don't like that still help the ending. So I would argue you can't take them out. Just because I don't like it doesn't mean I don't recognize the utility of it. But I was thinking about Tommyknockers because there are parts of it that I think are just quintessential Stephen King horror that no one does as well when he really hits it. So I'm thinking about in Tommyknockers when the one brother is doing a magic show and makes his brother disappear and then can't find his brother because his brother's gone.
That's also the kid that gets raped by his dad.
Right, but still, I just that idea of holy shit, I really did just do magic. Holy shit, where's my brother? And it just some of that aspect of it, just to me, those were the best parts of that book, and I really like those parts. Now the ending of it, no. Even though the ending seems kind of obvious, it just seemed.
Except for the problem is it's not feasible.
Well, I think he just decided, all right, I didn't finish it.
There's not enough electricity in the human body to fuel a fucking spaceship.
Well, there was more going on than that.
That was the premise, though.
Well, again, like, because they start eating batteries or sucking on them and stuff. And, like, there was more to it, but I agree, it's kind of dumb. But so is the idea that cars would come alive. Like, it's kind of dumb. But
yeah, well, I've heard an argument that's because he stole that anyway, so. From the car, because the original car was 1950s, not 1970s.
in a way, Cujo, I think, might exemplify a really, you just take a normal situation and just, well, what could make it worse? Just keep doing that. Hey, Ephraim! Ephraim wants to know, are you going to make the Inktober?
No plans for Inktober because between doing this as a commission and working on the comic book, I don't really have spare time to mess around with it too much. I might do something, but I'm not going to try to do every day an image for every day. I'm not going to try to do that. I support anyone else who tries to do that, just like I support anyone that tries to do Writers of the Future, even though I don't think that I could win it because I think it's biased. But I would support the practice of writing and getting stuff done every time. So it's the same thing, I guess, and well, a little bit of the same thing, I guess, with Inktober. I'm not going to try to get like a new drawing or a new inking or a new picture done every day of October based on the cues or the prompts. If I have something that matches a prompt that I'm doing, then maybe I will kind of post that for Inktober, but it is definitely not high up on my list of priorities at the moment. But once again, I fully support anyone whose it is. If you have it on high up on your list, that's great.
Oh, that's like in one of the groups I'm in on Facebook for writers, someone just posted, "Are there any free contests?" Which I thought, yeah, they're posted all the time, but whatever. So I said, yeah, you should check out, if you do science fiction or fantasy, you should check out Writers of the Future. Now, I don't owe Writers of the Future anything, and there are issues that I have with them sometimes. But overall, it's like if you write science fiction or fantasy, and you write short stories, it doesn't cost anything to enter. The money is good if you win. And the exposure and networking opportunities, I think, are pretty good. So I think it's a good one for people to try.
And I agree, because like I said, I agree that if you don't win, you at least have a story.
Right.
Which you could try to sell, and you've completed a story, which is important for beginners. Yep. To actually complete stuff.
Yep.
But that said, anyone that goes into that contest should realize that their chances of winning are probably about 1 in 1,500. That doesn't mean that you shouldn't try. That just means that when you try, you should try hard.
Yeah.
You should try with what you got. You don't come with your half-ass shit. Come with your best.
And prepare to be let down. So.
What's that?
I said prepare to be let down.
Well, yeah. That's another good lesson, too.
Yep.
That doesn't get really discussed that much. Like, when I say your chances are 1 in about 1,500, that's a rough estimate. It could even be more now. But when you're submitting stories in reality to magazines or whatever, publishers, you're going to have rejections. So it's a good idea to get used to the idea that there are going to be rejections. Kevin J. Anderson, famously said, and something that stuck with me, is that writers write. They don't write one story and send it in and wait around to see if it does anything. They write. So if one story fails, they've got something else that they can put in the pot. They've got something else that they can send out, because that's what they do. They write. So if you spend your time focusing on your rejections, then you're not focusing on writing.
Right.
And if you really want to be a writer, you should be focusing on writing. And that's Kevin J. Anderson's popcorn theory, is that not every kernel in a pot pops. But if you put a whole bunch of kernels in that pot, you're going to get bowl full popcorn. So, I mean, it's a positive way of looking at it, and I totally agree with that. And not like Orson Scott Card once said that if you write enough, you're going to get published. You may not get published often, but you'll get published. So that's the other end of that theory. Like, if you want to get published, you got to write. If you want to win the lottery, you can't do it without buying a lottery ticket. Not saying that you're going to win the lottery, but what I'm saying is that there's no way you're going to win if you don't try, right? So it's not just contests; it's anything in life, really, right? If you're not willing to go that extra mile and try what you need to do to try, you're never going to get anywhere because you're limiting yourself. I was saying something about that on the server with somebody that he comes into the writing channel and will give me his basic this is my idea, what do you think? This is my idea, what do you think? So he's jotting down a bunch of synopses, and I'm saying, don't just tell me synopses, finish it.
Yeah.
Like, finish something. Because if you don't, you're just going to give me synopses. I don't need synopses. I don't need that. Like, if I've got plenty of ideas for myself. I don't need your ideas.
But there's also like I had an idea for a character, kind of a murder mystery type thing, which is great. And I could have given you a synopsis over that, but that's not how I'm gonna. From start to finish, that synopsis will probably change, or at least it does for me. You've seen my stuff. You know it changes.
Right.
That's why I always have all those different drafts. And now that I'm getting into drafting, that's my new thing. I really like drafting. And it's helping me get stuff fleshed out and done. It also keeps me from worrying about being perfect. So I just like, oh, that's for the next draft. And I'll put a comment in. Or if it's big enough, I'll start another draft. But, so that story I was talking about earlier that Jake kind of was trying to talk me out of, there were parts of it I was not super satisfied with. Like, they worked, but I thought they were too derivative. And then I already, you start to revise things, and I was like, oh, looking at the time frame and whatnot, I started thinking this would be, because it's set in a old mining town, which is fine, except for that's been done. And I didn't want it to be derivative of like The Quick and the Dead or something like that. So it kind of bothered me, but I kept working on it anyway.
It didn't feel like The Quick and the Dead to me.
Well, there were parts that
location doesn't dictate that for me. So, anyway,
well, you didn't see all of it, and there were parts that were happening, and then I was like,
I'm sure.
And then there's a place in Syracuse, or I guess technically it's outside of Syracuse, but it's on Lake Wawasee, called the Sphinx. And not the Sphinx, it's the Sphinx. And it kind of has a history. And I've been kind of toying around with that one on a different project. And then I was thinking about the Kellogg's brothers, like the guys that invented the cornflakes, and one of them ran a hospital, and with that, and I was like, oh, I could kind of combine some of those ideas, and still the right time frame, and I was like, oh yeah, like that works for me. Like that, so as you finish something, I think it's like you begin to actually know it. Like I don't ever know and maybe I don't plot enough or plan enough, but I always feel like I don't know enough. In fact, I was working on something just the other day, just working on an outline, right? And I remember in the outline, I said, and this is what I always do. I think I'm being real detailed and concrete, and there are parts of it that are not. And here it is. He says, this is just an outline. This isn't good writing. This is an outline. It says he does not drink when he's chasing the idea, but he realizes the server's physique is wrong. And then I move on. Well, how does he know that? And all that kind of stuff. And that's the kind of world building that that's where I pants, I guess. Like, I think I've figured it all out, but really, that's kind of glossing over what happened. I don't know how he realizes. I don't know what it was. But I have enough down for an outline that I feel like I can start. So I still have some of that discovery. That thrill you get when pantsing. But anyway.
Well, this guy, he's like, he'll cover, like this is biopunk and this is near future, whatever. Like, but he doesn't finish it. He just lays out the story. The first thing he did was like a Daredevil thing, but apparently he'd never read a Daredevil comic. So like, he's telling us this crime boss is killing off other crime bosses to become the main crime boss. That's his twist. And I'm like, that's not a twist. That's pretty much every crime boss story out there. So
it's The Godfather.
Right. I mean, that's what I was telling him. Like that, it's not unique. It's okay for a start. If you pick something else and mash that in with it, you might come up with an idea that hasn't been done as often before.
We're not free. We're not free. That's not.
I guess Eli is telling us it's time because it's 11.
Okay.
Well, that's probably good. My wife would appreciate that.
Well, so, but what I'm telling what I was saying is that he needs to finish the story, because without finishing the story, like, first of all, like, and I didn't get that far into the explanation. I probably will go a little further into it, but without finishing the story, you have nothing to work with. You're just, it's like throwing a bunch of clay down and saying that's something, or roughly shaping out a man's shape. That's not a sculpture. It's just the kind of rough edges. If you want to be biopunk, which is basically Paul DeFilippo, or DeFilippo, or I don't know, it's spelled like Philippines Filippo.
Okay.
He wrote a book called Ribofunk, and it's basically the birth of that genre. And he was saying it's basically cyberpunk with a focus on experimenting with body. He's like, for him, the progenitors were Island of Dr. Moreau and Frankenstein and stuff like that, which makes absolute sense. But now I've got to rethink the 13th name, because the 13th name is kind of, monsters and mafia, but is it really biopunk? It's not a futuristic setting, but it definitely he's in mythology. But so it's like, oh, somebody steals something and goes past the security guard, and the security guard gets a zip drive and plugs it in, and whatever information's on that security drive, things go bad, something blows up, he loses half of his body, and then they replace half of his body, and then turns out that his daughter is the bad guy or some shit like that. And like, you know, instead of just giving me roughs and stuff,
Finish something.
you can distill that comment down to one sentence or one quick paragraph, and then write it. Like, he was talking about, and this was an interesting idea, mixing a detective story where it's not an uncommon theme, but this detective goes to meet this politician and finds him dead. Well, and then he like switches subjects, jumps over to these people are splicing their DNA with animals for a fashion statement. And I'm like, well, no, that's an original idea, or an idea that's less delved into. Why? So you asked the questions. Why would they make this as a fashion statement? Who makes this a fashion statement? Is it something only the rich can do? Is it something the poor can do? Etc. Right? You start asking these questions, and then you fit that together with the dead politician or whatever, and then you make a story that's not the same old detective story or the same old, you know, and it's a different kind of biopunk story that's, you know, hard-boiled detective biopunk, right?
Yeah.
So, and I'm saying, finish it, write it, but instead, how about this idea? How about that idea? Write it. Like, if you answer my questions instead of writing it, you don't need to write it because you just answered the questions. That's the whole point, right?
Right.
All right, man. I see you looking like you're fidgety. So.
Well, that's because I got to pee.
Yeah, well, it's that time anyway. So Thank you guys for watching. Thank you guys for commenting. Nice to see you, Efrain. Nice to see
Adam.
Yeah, Adam. Thank you guys for liking, subscribing, following. Good night. God bless. Much love.
Peace.